Right. I have worked for 8 straight hours. 8 straight hours. Eight. And I am on 4 monsters. Four is a terrible number of monsters. So I'm a little hyper, and I've been asked a question by Anonymous, so I feel like I should share with all of you, because some of you who are recent followers may not understand why I went to court, which makes it a little awkward to talk about. I went to court for assault. And before we go any further, and before you judge me, you judging judges, I should tell you that this is my side of the story, and also the truth. Um, this is exactly what happened, as I have perceived it, and it is awful. So we're gonna revel in my misery. It's been a fun year and a half for me. A little stressful. Very stressful. Actually, yeah. Anyway, uh, in the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and Chuck Norris said, "Please." No, there was a Burger King. Burger King's in New Jersey, and I used to work there. I used to be an employee there. I just said that, and I quit. And I was going to visit some of the people I knew there, and there was this kid who I didn't really know, but he was in my grade, and I didn't like talking to him because he did heroin. But I also uh, had to talk to him because he was kind of doing the shitty job I used to have to do, and I feel bad because it's kind of my fault because I left. So I was talking to him. I was like, "Hey, I remember how I used to do that. It sucked." And just talking to him about how shitty Burger King was, because working for Burger King is the most awful experience in the entire world. And I can say that because it's my opinion. Um, it's actually not the most awful experience in the entire world. There is such a thing as racial genocide and other things in other countries. So it's more of a first world problem, and I should correct that. It's one of the most terrible jobs you can work for minimum wage. I will say that's true. Uh, so anyway, I was walking along and I was talking to this kid, and anyway, this car comes up into the parking lot off the street, and guns it because we were walking too slow. I will absolutely admit that I was walking too slow because I was talking to somebody. I wasn't paying attention to the car at all. So I kind of turned as I heard it and like jumped ahead a couple feet so that I didn't like die. So I jumped out of the way, but not like jumped out of the way, just like jumped out of the way. And then he rolls down his window and he goes, "Fuck you, you fucking prick! Why don't you fucking walk faster?" At which point I was like, "I'm gonna give you the finger because that seems like an appropriate response. This is the finger if you've never seen it before. Ta-da!" Um, Also known as the bird. So I uh, I gave him the finger, which in retrospect, terrible idea, because people are crazy, as proven by this story. So I gave him the finger, and he gets out of his car, and he's a 46-year-old dude. I didn't know this at the time. I knew he was older than me. I knew he was a foot taller than me. I'm like 5'8", and he's like 6'4", so he's probably only a half foot taller than me. Still a difference. And he it has at least 100 pounds in me, which kind of sucked because I was a little bit of a fat kid before, and his was all muscle, so it was just awful. So then he gets out of the car. He goes, "You want to fight?" And I'm like, "No," because it was right after midterms. I'm tired, and I don't really like fighting for no reason. The guy almost hit me with a car, and I felt justified in giving him the finger. I wasn't gonna fight this guy, so he walks up to me and he pushes me, and I took a step back and I said, "Don't push me." And he pushes me again. I pushed him off me. I went, "Don't push me." At which point he started to throw punches, and I covered my head because it sucked. So I was blocking like I'd seen in books, and he's hit me, and I had three thoughts. The first thought was, "Ow." The second thought was, "I don't want to get hit anymore." And the third one was, "Why is that lady in the minivan just watching me?" Because there was this lady in this minivan just like, this is interesting. I'm gonna drive up and get my kids' meal now. So yeah, that happened, and it was. I mean, I can kind of understand it. You can't really hate on girl in minivan, because her kids were there, and that's a dangerous situation. So I get it. I'm assuming she has kids because she was driving a minivan, but she seemed like a person who would have kids, and that's maybe she had kids. I'm not mad at her. You are forgiven, minivan lady. As as of this video, as of a while ago, I would never be mad at you. I like you too much. So that happened, and I was blocking, and I threw one exact punch, and then I realized I was in deep shit because I threw it, and he just went and knocked it out of like the air. It never even connected. So then I was just like, oh my, I'm gonna cover my head until this stops. And luckily, this guy pulls into the parking lot, and his name is Ed Faber. He's a very awesome individual, and he saw me getting the shit kicked out of me, pulled in with his daughter-in-law and his granddaughter, and jumps out of the car and goes, "Hey, get off that kid!" At which point the guy put his hands down, and I'm like, "Awesome! I can finally stop getting the shit kicked out of me." And I put my hands down, and he fucking sucker punches me right in the eye. It was awful. So I'm like this, like dying over in the corner, basically. Not dying, but like I was not opening my eyes at that point. He goes to his car and drives off, at which point the daughter-in-laws calling the cops, holding the granddaughter. Felt bad. Um, and me, I'm sitting there like, oh, this hurts, this sucks. And then something starts falling out of my eye, and I'm like, oh, my eye is coming out of my eye socket. And it was the scariest experience I've probably ever had. And it was just a contact lens because I wear contact lenses. And the so then the police come. First the Burger King manager comes out and has like a glove with ice because they don't have ice packs at the Burger King. They barely have band-aids. As a person who worked there and cut himself on things, yeah, they don't have a very good first aid kit. Burger King, if you watch this, please fix that, I guess. So then we have an interesting thing. What happened next? I totally spaced. Oh, the cops showed up. Police officers came and interviewed me, and they were very nice about it. Although, and very thorough, actually, come to think of it. I was going to make fun of them for being thorough, but thank God they were thorough. So 3 different police officers wrote down my statement, and they all matched up like perfect because it's what happened, which is weird. And I was told that I could press assault charges, but they weren't going to because they weren't there and the cameras weren't working. By the way, the entire time of this fight, I was trying to stay under this one camera, and it was busted, which was awesome. Which is why I didn't like run away or run inside or anything. I was just like, I want to stay here so that when what eventually transpires on camera will be shown. And it didn't work at all. So then they told me I should go to the hospital because my face is my eyes swollen shut and I'm bleeding out my mouth. So the ambulance comes and they're like, "We're gonna take you to Newton. Is that okay?" And I had been punched in the head several times. If you've ever been to New Jersey or you're in the area of Newton, do not go to Newton Hospital because 1, if you even look like you've been in a fight, or 2, look like it was something that was accidentally self-inflicted, those people look down on you so bad. There was one nice lady, she was the one who gave me an MRI, and she was about my age, and she was attractive. But everyone else was like, "Go fuck yourself." Like, I was bleeding out my mouth, and I was like, "Can I get some like napkins or paper towels?" They gave me like napkins to stop the bleeding. I was like, "Thanks." And it was just an awful experience. So then I get a phone call from a police officer who tells me that Mr. Weinstein called and told them his side of the story, and that I was going to get charged with assault. So I beat him to it. I charged him first because I was like, that's wrong. You know, if he went to the cops, and here's the moral of the story. If he went to the police station and said, "I'm sorry, I lost my temper, and I got into a fight, and I would like to apologize," I would have let it go. I would have never even proceeded any court thing at all, and I can say that with 100% certainty because I haven't sued him. But the fact that he blamed me made me go to the cops and say, "Listen, I have to press this assault charge. Because that's not right. I don't want someone to get away with that. I don't know. I don't care what you're dealing with. That's wrong." Somber moment. And it's over. So then we go to court, and when we go to court, it takes like 6 months to get my first hearing, and then it takes a couple months to do something else, and then we go to court, and his whole explanation, I actually get to see all of his statements beforehand, but his whole explanation was, oh, in this parking lot, which is 3 cars wide, I had been blocking his car so much that he could not get around me. And then he got out of his car and to ask me why. Or he asked me to move, and I gave him the finger, and then he got out of his car to ask me why, and then I started hitting him. Keep in mind, I am the only one with facial, contusions. He has a tiny cut on the inside of his lip. I could not believe it. He had like a prepared statement printed out and handed to the cops. He didn't like write one when he went in. And it changed 3 times. I want to point that out. If you look at all 3, they're all different. So, and I still had to go to court. So then I got myself a lawyer who is a friend of mine's dad. He's a great guy. I could not have done it without him, and he didn't charge me a lot, which was awesome because he could have, because it took a year and a half to get this over with. And long story short on that, they delayed court again about 6 months ago. Well, no, yeah, it was a little bit longer than that. It was 7 months ago, and because someone had overheard me talking at Stop and Shop about the fight the previous day, and that was they were going to call that person as a witness, which was ridiculous because the only way they would have come forward with that information would be if they knew the guy who kicked the shit out of me. So that's a little biased. But whatever. It's a court. It's a court of law, and it was allowed by the judge, so it's allowed by me. And then 6 months later, in November, they they were like, you know what? We're not going to use that guy. And so the judge was a little miffed. He was like, you delayed court 6 months for no reason. You have just broken like the speedy trial rule, hands down. And then I got to go in on the 22nd and stand there and be a nervous wreck. I was like, is something going to go wrong? Is the judge going to think I'm a liar? And the judge told me I was not guilty, which was the coolest thing I've ever heard. And the second coolest thing I've ever heard was that he was guilty. So, yeah. So that's why I went to court. I assaulted a guy's fists with my face, as I like to put it. It was a terrible experience. I hope it never, ever, 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 ever happens again. It was the most nerve-wracking thing. I went home and I slept for 2 hours, and people were knocking on my door, and like, because my door was locked, I don't know why. And people were like, Jake, and no one could wake me up for 2 hours. I was so relieved I just slept. It was so that's the story of my assault case against and for me, as it happened, which was great. So I'm glad I could share that with all you guys. I'm glad I could do it in video form because it would have taken so long to write, and I have written it before. It's somewhere back in the Tumblogs. Yeah. So that's my assault case video for Anonymous. You're welcome, Greyface. You look lovely today. Peace.